You're at a gathering. Someone leans in close and lowers their voice. Did you hear what happened with them? Your whole body changes. You lean in too. Your attention sharpens. For a moment, nothing else in the room matters as much as this. You probably feel a little guilty about how much you enjoy this. Most people do, but the real explanation for that pull might surprise you. Gossip has a bad reputation. It gets treated like a character flaw, something petty, something small-minded people do. But researchers who study social behavior have found something that complicates that story. In the 1990s, the evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar at Oxford spent time recording what people actually talked about in everyday conversations. Not lectures, not debates, just ordinary chatter, on trains, in offices, at bus stops. He found that roughly 2/3 of it was social in nature. Who did what? Who's dating whom? Who let the group down? What someone said behind someone else's back. Dunbar didn't see this as a distraction from meaningful conversation. He proposed something more provocative, that this kind of talk might be one of the main reasons language evolved in the first place. Here's the idea. Other primates, like chimpanzees and baboons, maintain their social bonds through physical grooming, picking through each other's fur for hours at a time. It's slow. It only works one-on-one. And as a group grows larger, there simply isn't enough time in the day to groom everyone who matters. Dunbar's hypothesis suggests that as early human groups grew beyond what grooming could realistically maintain, something needed to replace it. Something faster, something that could reach more people at once. His proposal is that gossip filled that role. A kind of vocal grooming. You can't physically groom 15 people before lunch, but you can talk about 15 people. This remains a hypothesis, not a settled fact, and researchers continue to debate exactly how central gossip was to the origins of language. But it offers a strikingly different way to think about why talking about other people feels so automatic, so effortless, almost involuntary. If Dunbar is right, gossip isn't a glitch in your social wiring. It might be one of the oldest features of it. But there's a second layer to this, and it has less to do with bonding and more to do with something colder. Keeping track of who can be trusted. Living in a group has always come with a specific risk. Someone might take more than their share, break an agreement, or quietly cheat, and get away with it simply because no one else finds out. The evolutionary psychologist Frank McAndrew at Knox College has spent years studying why gossip appears in virtually every human culture ever documented, even ones with no contact with each other. His research points to a consistent pattern. People are highly motivated to learn about the behavior of others, especially behavior that might affect their own reputation or safety. Gossip, in this light, works like an early warning system. It's how information about who's reliable and who isn't spreads through a group without everyone needing to witness the bad behavior firsthand. You didn't have to be there when someone broke a promise. You just had to hear about it. This might explain something that feels strange if you've ever noticed it in yourself. How satisfying it can be to hear that someone got away with nothing. Not necessarily out of cruelty. Some researchers argue it functions as a kind of social accounting, confirmation that the group's unwritten rules still apply, even to people who think they can quietly ignore them. There's a version of gossip most people don't picture when they hear the word, and it might be doing something surprisingly positive. In 2012, the psychologist Matthew Feinberg, then at UC Berkeley, ran a series of experiments looking at what gossip actually does inside groups. In one study, participants played an economic game where they could act generously or selfishly, with no direct punishment for selfish behavior. But there was a twist. Other participants could pass along information about how someone had played, warning future partners. The mere possibility of that information spreading changed people's behavior. Across multiple studies, Feinberg's research found that gossip about someone's untrustworthy conduct made other group members more cooperative overall and reduced exploitative behavior, even though no formal punishment was involved. The threat wasn't a fine or a penalty. It was simply the fact that other people would know. Feinberg's work suggests that gossip, far from only being petty or destructive, can function as a low-cost way of enforcing cooperation in a group, something researchers sometimes call prosocial gossip. Not every instance of gossip works this way, and plenty of it is unkind, inaccurate, or genuinely harmful. But the underlying mechanism, information about behavior spreading through a network of relationships, appears to serve a real social function, not just a petty one. This might be part of why gossip is so hard to resist even when you know it's not particularly kind. Some part of the drive behind it may be less about judging someone else and more about quietly checking whether the social contract is still holding. Of course, none of this feels like ancient tribal accounting when it's actually happening. It feels like connection, like closeness, like being let in on something. That's not an accident either. Sharing information, especially sensitive information, has long been recognized by researchers studying friendship and trust as one of the fastest ways two people can build intimacy. When someone tells you something private about another person, they are, in a small way, signaling that they trust you with information that could matter. Which is also why gossip can just as easily damage trust as build it. If information moves quickly through a group when it's about honesty and cooperation, it moves just as quickly when it's a betrayal of confidence. The same mechanism that builds closeness in one direction can just as easily unravel it in another. Modern life hasn't removed this instinct. If anything, it's built entire platforms around it. Comment sections, group chats, entire corners of the internet exist almost purely to discuss the behavior of other people, often people none of the participants have ever met. The scale is new. The underlying pull may not be. So the next time you catch yourself leaning in a little closer, lowering your own voice to ask, "Wait, what happened?" It's worth remembering what research suggests might actually be going on underneath that curiosity. You may not simply be indulging in something petty. You might be running one of the oldest systems your species ever built for figuring out exactly who, in your particular corner of the world, can still be trusted.